What's up, Lions? For as little as $5 a month, you can help this show to grow, while also getting access to our exclusive Pride content, which includes shows like Conspiracy Corner, Degenerate Gamblers, special interviews, Lions of Liberty roundtables, and much, much more. So check that out. Help us grow at lionsofliberty.com/support.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc, Clair.
What's up, Lions of Liberty fans and friends? Welcome to a very special bonus episode. That's right, it's Thursday. You don't usually hear my voice or any of our voices on Thursday, but this Thursday is an exception because we had a great event in Los Angeles this past weekend. Jason Stapleton, who many of you know, moved out here recently. He and I put together, along with our good friends at Liberty on the Rocks, want to give a big shout out to Pablo Serrato for helping us get this set up, along with Dave Smith from Part of the Problem, who was in town with his Legion of Skanks tour. We decided to get Dave over, and me and Brian McWilliams and Jason, we all got together with our friends from Liberty on the Rocks and had an awesome event. We took over a place called the State Social House in Hollywood, California, and we drank and we talked, and it was so great to meet a lot of libertarians, a lot of local libertarians. Believe it or not, there is quite the contingent in Los Angeles. It was great to hang out with people I've had on the show before, Judd Weiss, Avens O'Brien, of course, Dave. I also got to meet Nicholas Wildstar. It was just a great time. So we want to now present to you the little podcast that we recorded. It was a little over an hour, but it's a little too spicy, a little too racy for Jason's feed. So I offered to toss it up here for you guys to listen to. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Without further ado, I present to you this very special audio from an event that we called Liberty Behind the Lines.
Who's on board to violently overthrow the state right now, right here? All right, well, you just found out I'm undercover, and you're all under arrest, so... All
right. So, what do you want to do? We're terribly unprepared, by the way. We
are the worst improv.
Yeah, we're worst. I never did groundlings.
Like us and groundlings are like.
Yeah,
right
I never did that. All right.
I think maybe we can do a little Q&A. It's a burning topic.
We can do some Q&A. I thought one of the interesting things is we're in Los Angeles, and so there's a lot of people. The reason that I wanted to throw this, the reason that I approached Marc about doing this, and we asked Dave to come out, is that there are a lot of people in this area who believe in the ideas of of liberty and libertarianism, and there just are not a lot of events like this for those of you who are here to meet each other and get to know each other. And so I thought, man, what a great time. We can get together, we can drink some beers, we can meet each other. It's a chance for you guys, really more than meeting us, which really doesn't matter, is for you guys to meet each other and to recognize that the ideas that we have, that the things that we believe in, that the vision that we have for the world is not impossible. That there are 200 people, that signed up to come to this thing. I don't know, there's 150 people here or whatever who came to this thing because they believe enough in the ideas that we promote that they wanted to come and be part of it. And that's a huge deal. And I hope that these things grow. I hope that one day we've got 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 people who are showing up in L.A. to be part of what we're promoting.
Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I just want to say thank you to all of you who came out, and we're not going to occupy time here. We thought we might do a podcast. We can do some Q&A. But really one of the things we wanted to talk about was really how do you spread the message? How do you communicate what it is that we believe with people who, I mean, it's Easter, so we could talk about the non-believers. The non-believers, how do you communicate that message with them? And I've always been a proponent of saying, your job is not to win arguments. Your job is to win converts. Right, winning an argument means nothing. Getting someone to think about your ideas in a way that is positive, that adds to change or contributes to them modifying their thought process is what's really important. And so, as we talk about this, as we share, this is one of the great things that we do, is we come together as a community and we support each other and we lift each other up, and that's important when you live in someplace like Southern California.
Yeah. Well, I live in New York City where it's nothing but libertarians, so I don't have that problem. But yeah, you freaks in Hollywood got a big deal. But I think.
Sorry, man.
No problem. I think that's a great point, and I think one of the things that brings a lot of libertarians together, right? It's like we all came to this from something else. Like this isn't like a popular mainstream view, so you figured this out somehow. And I remember personally, for me, when I first figured, out that I was a libertarian, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to tell everybody about this. And then they'll be like, great point, I'm a libertarian too. And like, we'll all just have fun together and live in this libertarian world. And then you told other people about it and they were like, you're retarded. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's not. So no matter how much you can't be just trying to bull people over and win an argument. And you can't, this is something Scott Horton taught me that I think is I know he's been on all your guys' shows, and this really stuck out to me. He's like, you can't ever try to rob people of their identity. Okay? So whatever their identity is, you can't be like, no, you're wrong and I'm right, because that'll never change anybody. What you have to do is say, you have to let them keep their identity and realize that we're better at their identity than they are. And that's the truth. Libertarians, we're better liberals than the liberals, and we're better conservatives than the conservatives. Okay? Everything that fucking the liberals fight for, like, we're for fucking, civil rights. We're better on civil rights than they are. They're anti-war. We're more anti-war than they are. And the fucking conservatives are like, we're for the free market. We're so much more for the free market than they are. So, but it's like you let people keep their identity and you fucking nudge them. If I didn't put fucking in front of that, it would have sounded a lot less impressive.
It's just part of you. Yeah, it's what you do.
But that's it. You nudge them and point them in this world. And just the fact that, like you were saying, there would have been 10 of us if we were having this in 1970, and now there's 150 or 200, whatever there is here, that you just got to keep that into the future. Like, we're just going to make more and more and more, and then, we'll defeat the state.
Well, totally.
Like
what also, dude, there's a lot of, like, I was reading this article, there's, like, some scientific background, too, to that. Like, you're talking about, you can't just hit people in the face with it. And, like, libertarians have that.
It's
like, we got
literally
that
what you do.
reputation, whether you like it or not, but it's being like know-it-alls. Because we do know more than all these other fucking idiots. We all agree with that. We all know it. But it's true, like, you attack somebody head on, and like Dave's talking about the identity, people identify so hardcore with these ideals they have. And if you attack them head on and try to attack what they stand for and what they think, you can say, like, even if you're 100% right, they did studies in this shit. It's called the rebound effect, where even if you're right, they'll just be like, okay, well, fuck that guy. And that's 100% happens all the time. So you got to find that middle ground. Like you said, you got to, like, chip away. Otherwise, they're just going to be like, screw libertarians, screw that guy, doesn't matter.
Well, what I've always said is you got to enter the conversation that they're already having in their own minds. So wherever they're at, or whatever position they're at, and there's some people that you just can't communicate with. There's some people that are just, they're too ingrained in their own beliefs, and like you said, they're going to be, doesn't matter what you put in front of them, they're like, fuck you. And so you've just got...
First time I've heard Jason curse, by the way.
What?
Just now. That was kind of cool.
Well... Dave said it was okay.
It's okay.
So, okay.
Oh, it's more than okay.
I just can't play this on my podcast.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was cursing up the storm. Oh.
It's they're like go fuck yourself, because you're a fucking moron. And the problem is that we cannot have a conversation with those people. But who we can have a conversation with are people who, like Dave said, are already leaning one way or the other. Like, if they're conservative, they're progressive, it doesn't matter. Where's Lindsay at? Lindsay, where are you? Lindsay, come here, Lindsay. Lindsay is the producer of my show now. She is wonderful. She's also single. If you're in it.
By the way, if you're wondering, Jason,
she's very active on Tinder. You should be able to find her there.
Lindsay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to say, like, when we have the conversations, you were very. You're not libertarian, but you were at least.
Well, that took a long time. What do you think about it first, Lindsay? Why don't you take a minute and think about it?
Hang on. Here's the thing: is that you were open-minded enough to say, "Hey, I'm willing to have my ideas challenged." Right?
I think it's really important. Okay. I think it's really important to acknowledge, Jason, that you weren't the a-hole who was like, "You're effing wrong. Everything you say is wrong. You're wrong. That's wrong." And you had you took the time to kind of like explain things, and we looked at them, right? So I think it's a really good point to what you're saying, where you can't just bowl people over. You got to take the time to explain it, and that's what you've done. And yeah, I'm kind of libertarian leaning now. Don't start me. Don't start me.
How many weeks now have you been in LA doing?
I did that like 3 weeks.
Try adding
Like 3
libertarian
weeks I
leading
did
to your
that.
Tinder profile. I
did
think
in
that
like
would be a
3
good
weeks.
thing to do. No, see how it works.
Why you gotta harass Lindsay?
Well,
She's nice.
this is going totally off
You
topic.
brought her up here.
So anyway, no, but Lindsay. So I brought Lindsay up to just basically say that there is a way to communicate with people who you disagree with that ends in a positive result. That it may not be something that where you all of a sudden they've converted, but at least when they walk away, they're saying to themselves, I don't agree with that guy, but he makes some good points.
Right.
And like you said, you're moving them closer towards, and if you enter the conversation they're already having in their own minds, and you're saying, hey, you want to talk about free markets, or you want to talk about, gay rights, whatever it is, you don't know the half of it.
Right.
Like, you want to talk about moral consistency, we're it.
Yeah, well, I'll see this thing that people do all the time, right? So, libertarians, they'll be talking to somebody who's, let's say, like on the left, okay? And you're talking to them, and they're like, whatever, they're talking about like systemic racism or something like that, and the response will be some like Ben Shapiro nonsense, where it's like, okay, well, inequality of outcomes doesn't mean anything because if you're in a free society, then who cares if there's inequality of outcomes? That's fine. That just means someone was smarter, someone worked harder, someone did that. And it's like, okay, technically that's true if we lived in a fucking free society, right? But we don't. And anyone on the left just heard when you say that, if you just go like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with inequality of outcomes because that just means some people are smarter. What they heard is you just say blacks aren't as smart. Blacks don't achieve as fucking much, and that's what we stand for. And that's bullshit. That's not what we stand for. The truth is, if you want to talk to someone on the left, what you tell them is slavery was the law of the land. Segregation was the law of the land. All this stuff has been backed up by the state for years and years and years, and whether it's welfare or the war on drugs or all this, the thing that has made this horrific inequality is in large part the state. And now both of those things are correct in terms of being a libertarian, but one of them just completely alienated that person from you, and the other one just like brought them over to you. And same for people on the right. If you're kind of like against these wars or whatever, or you're like, hey, we shouldn't be fine, you can talk to them and be like, this is unconstitutional. Congress is supposed to declare these wars. Like, none of these things are us betraying our values at all, but it's a way that you can actually reach that person and not immediately get them into something where they're going to be like, okay, you're the enemy, I'm the good guy. I have so many people on the left who think I'm a Nazi. Like, I can't even tell you. I have been called a Nazi over this last year. I am a
He's the first Jewish Nazi, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the first Jewish Nazi.
I'm a Jew who wants to abolish the state, who hates a centralized authority. I'm even a smoker. That's how bad I am in Hitler's world, okay? I do nothing that he could be. But it's like people, you just realize nowadays, like, people want to put you in a box. So what our job is to let them know that that box is a fucking illusion. It doesn't even exist, and we're not operating within that. So that's what I would say.
Well, I think you make a good point there, man. It's like libertarians have the libertarian tropes, if you will. So libertarians also have a reputation as like being cold, right? Because people think we don't care. Because you advocate these positions where we're like, look, we're against these social programs, but we're not against them because we hate the people that they affect. We just feel like there's a better way to achieve it. And I think that when you're talking to people, especially on the left, like I did this a podcast with a guy named Jake Weissman. Some of you have probably heard it, some of you haven't. He does this show Corporate on Comedy Central, which is a funny show, by the way. But he basically was kind of harping on that. Like, don't you care about these people? And if you can reach people and say, look, it's not that we don't care, it's that we find there's a better way. And there's so many examples, like the welfare state, man. We keep spending all this money. The welfare state is bigger than it's ever been. You know where poverty levels are? Exact same. Exact same. So if you can reach people and say, okay, here's an issue I know you care about, but here's a different way to reach the solution. Like, there's got to be a better way because what we're doing isn't working. It's just doing the same thing over and over again. So trying to reach them on the level that they can appreciate you at and not attacking them, I found is like a good way to communicate.
Well, and I've always found that, we tend to want the same things. Nobody says I want a dirtier environment. Nobody says I want people that I want gays to be in chains. Nobody talks about that kind of stuff. So we all kind of want the same. Well, I'm just saying, we as libertarians tend to want the same things with most rational people. And so it's simply a matter of saying, hey, we both want the same things. We just have a different idea of how we get there. And it's an easy way to find common ground with people. So, I mean, I don't know.
And you meet people here that will say things like, I just want single-payer health care, or I want gun control now, and things like that. And when you hear them say that, you want to be like, whoa, you're fucking nuts. That's insane. That's terrible. That's totalitarian. Stop your nonsense. But that cannot be the response. Because when they say things like that, what they really mean is, I want everybody to have health care. What they mean is, I want to see less deaths.
It really is an emotional response, right? It's like, I want people to be able to get health care when they're sick. Okay, well, that makes sense to me. I would love that too. So how do you create that? Because healthcare is a commodity. You should be able to purchase as much as you can afford. So how do you reconcile that? Well, it's a little longer conversation, but what you don't want to do is automatically tell them that they're status and that they're terrible human beings. That's ineffective. Again, if you're not
save that for the bedroom.
Yeah, if you're not, yeah, right. if you're not working at winning converts, you're wrong. And so if I can leave you guys with one idea, it's that. If you are not trying to convert people, you're wrong. If you're trying to win arguments, winning arguments is easy. We have the high ground. We in the arena of ideas, we can't be defeated. So it's not difficult to win arguments. It's very, very, very difficult to win converts. That takes skill. That takes a delicate effort and a consistent effort. And if you guys are not doing that, then that's why we don't have 500 or 1,000 people in this room. It's not enough for you to listen and nod your head. You have to actually take that message out and work on people with it every single day. That's what's going to change our world. It's going to change our country. It's going to change our society, is if you are willing to do those things. And my hope is that we all live freer and more prosperous lives. I don't know whether capitalism is the best option on earth. I just know it's the best one we've ever come up with. If there's a better option than capitalism to lifting people out of poverty, then I'm all for it. Show it to me. But the problem is they retread old ideas which lead us further down this path towards totalitarianism. And I've always said, listen, what we need to do is we need to provide opportunity for people to be able to raise themselves up. And if we are doing a good job of that and we are expressing those ideas in a positive way, there's very little chance that we fail at that. Over time, we will win, but it has to be a consistent effort. And what I see online, what I see people running into on a constant basis, is this barrage of, okay, I have to defeat your idea, I have to destroy you, I have to make you look bad, I have to embarrass you because you're an idiot. And that may all be true, but you're not going to win anybody with that argument. And so, I don't know. Do you want to open it up to questions? I don't know if people have questions.
Here's what I want to do. I feel bad because Lindsay's now stuck here, sitting here next to the stage. We brought her up here. Could somebody get Lindsay?
She's producing for us right now. Come on.
Somebody, yes, Flynn is a man of the people.
Flynn's got it.
We never did an intro. Jacket coat for Lindsay. This is going on the podcast. It's the best.
We don't need an intro. We're Liberty famous.
I don't
Come
know
on.
if people know all
Just kidding.
of us.
They
I
are.
mean, we have 4 different podcasts
That
here.
is true. Yeah, that's true.
People are probably looking up at Marc and I because, Dave and Jason, big deals. Big fucking deals over here. They're like, who the fuck are these yahoos? Look at that guy's great Ron Paul shirt. It is a great shirt. Thank you. I'm Brian McWilliams from the Lions Liberty, by the way. Hello. I do Electric Liberty Land. Howdy.
Oh, I'm Marc Clair. I just started the Lions of Liberty podcast. Not nearly as big a deal as that. Whatever. Either way, we're here to latch on to our more famous and popular friends, Dave and Jason.
We're on to our more successful Libertarian podcast friends. So
I'm Jason Stapleton. I have the Jason Stapleton Program, if you guys don't know me. And this is Dave Smith, part of the problem.
This is my first time.
Right.
I'm just figuring this out now.
Right. You're doing well.
I think Q&A is a good idea.
Does anybody have a question?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, brother, in the back.
Yes, you mentioned that if our 3, viewerships got together, we could take over the Libertarian Party and bring back libertarianism to the LP. Is this the place we all start and get together and do it?
Yeah, the question is, for those of you listening on the recording, the question is, say, hey, if we combined our efforts, could we potentially actually take over the Libertarian Party? Here's the thing. I have somewhat of a great disdain for the Libertarian Party, but it's not because there are not good people there, because there are good people there, and I don't say that enough. The problem is the people who are in charge of it are doing a piss-poor job of actually moving the party forward. I would love to have a viable third party. The problem is Bill Weld and Gary Johnson embarrassed me. And so I cannot put it's tough for me to put my name on that label. I just talked to Johnny Rocket. Many of you guys know Johnny Adams, guy who runs the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Very nice guy. And he said, I'm starting this new program to try and promote liberty-based content, but he said, I'm leaving libertarian out of it because I don't want that name tarnishing what we're trying to do. That's sad. It saddens me. It really does. It hurts me because I believe in the ideas. I want the banner to speak for us. I want to be able to say libertarian and for people to think positively of that. And so we've actually got some stuff in the works to answer your question. I'm talking with the guys at Westwood One to try and see if I can bring the Lions of Liberty show alongside that. Because, again, at the end of the day, I don't want to get you guys involved in the business of this, but the more money we have, the better the reach we have. So the more money these guys have to promote their show, at the end of the day, the faster we grow.
There'll be a donation bucket.
Yeah,
we'll
pass a hat around.
Whatever you got.
It brings up an interesting concept,
Joints
though, is
are
that,
fine.
Like, I am not a member of the Libertarian Party. I don't pay dues. I have many, many issues. I'm just like Jason was saying, not only with Bill Weld, not only with Gary Johnson, but just with the existing leadership. I mean, I don't know if anybody here is like got a secret Sarwark underpants on with his fucking face on or anything like that, but.
Do they make those?
If they don't, I should sell them on our website. I'm sure somebody would get fucking skid marks all over them. Anyway, but Sarwark, you see the shit. It's just right. It's on the inside. It's not on the outside. It's on the inside of the underpants. Yeah, it's on the inside. But you see, like the shit, like him and Arvin Vora. It's like I understand some of what they're trying to do. Like Vora, I think he's coming from a good place. He's trying to he's got good base libertarian values, but the way he tells the story, like he has this shock value. I was just talking to the bar about this earlier. He has this shock value post where he's like, we should fuck 10-year-olds, and you're like, what? And then he's like, but I got you at the end with a libertarian value. You're like, yeah, that's great, man. But you know what the media, you know what all the people reading this are going to see? They're going to see that libertarians want to fuck 10-year-olds. And that's not really helping us move the point.
I don't believe that's an actual quote, to be clear.
Might be. I'm reading. I wrote it on the back of my hand.
All right.
But not only Arvin, Jason.
We're going down a dark path here. I don't want to really talk about this.
No. The point I'm making though is that Libertarian Party itself I have an issue with it. Like I'd love to see it become as great as it can be, but I'm torn because I'm not a member. And I feel like I got to sign up. Shame on me. I should take action. But people that are members, we need to get people leading that actually believe in the core values. Like we have people here for the Mises Caucus tonight. So cheers. Yeah. I like.
Thank
the
you guys
Mises
for coming out. Yeah, absolutely.
That's I think Dave I think wants to weigh in here too. But that's we need better leadership in there. We can't have people that are half social justice warrior liberals in there.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't mean to go I'm not going to go conspiracy theory on you guys here, but two buildings do not fall at free fall speed like that. They just don't. Okay. No. I'll say this, right? Just for a thought experiment, if the Libertarian Party was controlled opposition, they couldn't be doing a better job of destroying the name of libertarianism.
That is true. Yeah.
So I'm not saying they are, but. It's like if that was their mission, they could. I love the idea of being like, yes, let's just all get together. Let me tell you something. If a great libertarian, I don't know any of Jason, were to run on the LP nomination, I think they would win. I think they would destroy these people. Do you know how hard it was for them to get? Gary Johnson and Bill Weld were running against. No disrespect to Austin Peterson, but nobody. They were running against a guy who nobody really knew and someone with a hooker wife who made software engineer. And they still barely got over the edge, okay? McAfee was a person of interest in a murder investigation. Okay, and people were still like, I want to hear what he has to say before I go with Nazi cake guy over here. I'd like to listen to him because, listen, what the whole libertarian, and anybody can feel however they want to feel about Ron Paul, the reason this whole movement exists right now is because of Ron Paul, okay? That's what this whole thing is. That's the reason all of us have careers doing this. That's because he sparked something that I believe is still lying dormant. And I think it has been, the air has been let out of it since Ron Paul's been out of the political game. So I would love to get back into this game. But there's a real problem with just being like, I love what the Mises Institute, or Mises wing of the LP guys are doing. I think it's great. But like, there's something like Jason was saying, and the people who control it. There's a lot of good people on the bottom, man. These people don't work tirelessly and get petitions signed in the rain because they're like, oh, I want to hear Gary Johnson up there not knowing where the fuck Aleppo is. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Who of us doesn't know where, like, it's almost like you couldn't be intentionally throwing this any better if you tried to. So I'm down for that, but it's got to be, all we need is someone who's an unapologetic libertarian. You don't need to be a genius, but you need to have read a couple books on the subject, okay? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to go off forever. Gary Johnson said he didn't know who Murray Rothbard was. Just let that sit in for a second, okay? He didn't know. I'm not saying you don't disagree with him on something. I don't care about that. You don't know who he is? Like, so we got it. That thing, I would love for that to be the outlet where we can make some political change happen, but I'm not convinced that's any better than just having someone run as a Republican.
Well, and I'm going to tell you right now, what's going to make the biggest change is shows like yours, like mine. This is where the change happens. I'm just saying. I'm kind of a big deal. Just saying. No, but you know what I'm saying. Like, the change doesn't really happen through political parties. It happens through the people who work around and who spread the message. And so, what you said. Yeah, everything you said.
But it hurts me because I get it. Like, particularly young people in the liberty world will come up to me and they're like, hey, shouldn't we just put our petty differences aside and like get together and try to take, and it's like, yes, I want that more than anything. I loved in the Ron Paul days where it was like, I used to be one of those guys where if people were like, they were like, well, Ron Paul's a minarchist and I'm an anarcho-capitalist, and I'd be like, shut up. Just shut up, dude. We're taking on a way bigger thing. I don't care. I don't care. I'll go with a minarchist or a constitutionalist like Ron Paul. I don't care. But it's got to be someone who's actually trying to go, like Jason always says, someone who's actually like, no, we're moving the bus in this direction and we're not looking back, as to someone who's going to sit up there and Bill Weld will go, well, Hillary Clinton's a good kid. I disagree with her on some economic issues. Like, really? That's what we're going to be? So I don't know, man. I wish I had an answer, but I don't know. I do believe this, to what Jason was saying before. For all those guys who are like, the whole thing is to convert people. That's it. That's the whole game. There's nothing more nuanced than that. It's just to convert people. If you think, look, the state is a criminal organization. We all know that. Great. You guys want to try to take them out now? Because we will lose. I promise you. We couldn't take out one, wing of the LAPD that's probably waiting outside for us
speak
right
for yourself.
now. But
they're too busy shooting innocent Asian women in trucks, by the way. Everybody listening,
come on.
They've got better things to do.
Come on.
that is, I'm not familiar with that specific story, but I'm going to go on the side of the Asian woman right away. But we just got to, look, there's way more of us than there used to be. We got to get more and more and more and more.
Hang on, we got more questions.
Okay, sorry.
What's up, dude?
All right, my favorite
Why just
type.
Dave, man?
You got this guy, you got this guy, you got this guy, all living in Los Angeles. What about yourself? Why are you living in LA? Are you going to make like a libertarian TV show? Are you going to make a movie? What's like?
The question is, why is Dave being a bitch and living in New York rather than LA?
You're right. You're right. I should have come to this bastion of liberty that is LA and just get in here. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't want my kids transitioning by age 4, so I'm going to try to keep them out of this goddamn hellhole where it's...
By the way, can we appreciate that we're all meeting at a place called the State House?
Yeah, that was funny to me.
The social state house.
Social state house. Yeah.
It's like the most ironic place.
The irony is not lost on me.
Dude, I don't know. Maybe I'll come out here someday. I don't know. I'm here. I'm here. Well, good, because I'm not going to. And I'm engaged now, so I don't really make decisions anymore. I just defer to her, and I'm like, what are we doing?
By the way,
You told me you don't submit to authority earlier today. I don't know if that's
This is voluntary
entirely true.
authority. So I.
By the way, I know we got a lot of questions. I want to bring this up, though. So you're talking about, obviously, the state's a criminal institution. We all agree on that. But I have an issue, and I want to see if you guys agree with me or not, but I have an issue with the libertarian meme, if you will, taxation is theft. While I agree with it, I think that if we're talking to people, like we're talking about engaging with other folks, right?
Look, even Lindsay thinks you're crazy. Even Lindsay thinks you're nuts. What do you
Lindsay's
mean?
like, get this status
Look,
out
give
of
me the
here.
microphone. Give me a microphone.
People say taxation is theft all the time. In my opinion, I don't think libertarians should be throwing that around because I think it turns people off fucking immediately. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so
You're a statist. That's my thoughts.
it's not.
I'm not saying I don't agree with it, which I do, but I think it's become like a meme where people hear that and they're like,
Here's the thing. It's like anything else. People wear it as a badge. They put it on a T-shirt, and other people see it, and they're like, "Yeah, you're an idiot." Right? Because there's no discussion about why that's the
Right,
case.
they don't
right?
understand it.
There's no communication. Yeah. So I agree with you in the sense that if you're just going to walk around screaming taxation is theft, that's not a good thing. But if you are explaining the principle behind it, then I think that's a very good thing. I think you have to share with people that, hey, if it's not voluntary, it's theft, and that there's nothing wrong with saying that. It's like you can. It's theft of your own property. Well, okay, if you want to look at it that way. Yep.
Yeah, but
This is my recon brother, Mike Manimal. Everybody say hi to Mike.
all right, everybody, remember that face. Don't get in a fight with him.
Yep.
so I.
Mike will straight up kill you.
He's saying it's theft of your time, by the way, people who are listening to the
You said
podcast.
theft of your time. Now, Mike, when you say theft of your time, you mean like theft because you've worked for the dollars that you've earned and now it's theft of your time? Right, money is a reference of how much time, of your value. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So I kind of agree with all of that, but I get the point you're making, okay? But this is what I think, right? Like when I first became, I became a libertarian, like in 2007 I was first introduced to this stuff, and then like in 2008, 2009 I really was like convinced, and I remember back then, it seems like 80 years ago, but back then when you said taxation was theft, it had like a thing behind it. You were like, wow, that's a fucking radical statement. Like I'm questioning this whole system. Taxation is theft, and then it did become a meme, and it became kind of lazier. But like, it didn't become any less true. And if we're gonna make it what we're doing, the essence to me of what we're doing, right, at the core of libertarianism to me is that we're all people. We're all people, and the state is people too. And that you should judge the state the same way you would judge any other group of people who were doing what they were doing. So I get your point. It has become a meme, but I kind of agree with Jason. We still have to take it there and explain it to people, because the truth is that, like, look, if someone's a murderer and they shoot a cop in the face and then they turn a gun on another cop and that cop shoots that guy and kills him, I'm fine with what the cop did. I don't care. I don't care if the state does something that I would justify any of us doing. But if one of you guys saw someone smoking weed outside and threw him in a cage in your basement, I'd be like, you're not a great person. So, like, my whole thing is you judge if you believe it. If they were down, I mean, like, But if you're saying there's such thing as morality, then it's across the board. We're all subject to it. And there's still something so powerful of saying taxation is theft that I'm not ready to give up on it. But I do acknowledge what you're saying, and I hate that it's become like a kind of a thing that people get turned off to.
I do too, man. And I agree with everything you just said. But it's like we were talking about it earlier, like you can't hit people in the face and disagree with them right off. I just worry that it turns people off so instantly that at that point, if you try to talk to them, they've already tuned out.
Yeah.
I get that.
All right. Anybody else? Back right there, here in front.
You know what really puts sand in my gears? People say that the libertarians support universal basic income. Because the thing is, even if we get it, right, there'll still be inequality. There'll still be winners and losers. And after that, the government social program will come back again. So we'll have the welfare state and universal basic income.
Lindsay, you're taking notes. You need to take what he... Put in your fund.
The question is universal basic income, or the statement was it really bothers me that libertarians support universal basic income. Let me take this one. I may be a little bit more progressive than everybody else here in terms of just I think that there is I would prefer that there was not a social welfare state. I will say that right up front. I think that in terms of I have a game of inches strategy, right? That just says, hey, anytime you can take an inch, we take an inch.
Profile.
Right? So I look at... Yes. And so... Thanks, man.
I got you. Don't worry, I got you.
Yep. So you can check me out on Tinder. No. So you, what I'm saying is, like, I have a game of inches strategy. This is, hey, I will just take whatever I can get. So if I'm looking at a universal basic income, and I'm saying if we can eliminate all other government programs that deal with housing the poor and Section 8 housing and all this different government control over the money, and just simply write somebody a check and hand it to them and say, look, you can spend this money on crack or you can spend it on milk and meat. It's up to you, but when the money's gone, the money's gone. And I think that is a step in the right direction. It's not my preferred end game, but if I can move the ball that direction, I can eliminate the control of the money. Because really, when we relinquish control of our wealth, we're relinquishing our liberty. We're relinquishing our freedom. The amount of freedom you have is directly tied to the amount of money you have in your pocket. If you are wealthy, the world is wide open to you. You can go anywhere you want to. You can eat anywhere you want to. You can do anything you want to. If you are in poverty, it doesn't matter how much freedom you have in terms of your ability, your freedom of movement and all of that, because you're trapped financially. And so I look at this and I say, every time the government captures wealth from us and they hold it, and they decide, I'm going to give it to guy A because of this reason or guy B because of this reason, and I'm going to make you fill out all these forms and jump through all these hoops in order to get the money from us, I think that's a net negative. So while I disagree with the idea of a universal basic income on principle, if that was the change, if they were offering a reduction in all and a closing out of all other subsidies and wealth transfers in favor of a universal basic income, I would probably say that's a move in the right direction. That was actually Milton Friedman's argument. People said Milton Friedman was in favor of a universal basic income. He wasn't. Go ahead.
My whole point is we'll get rid of it.
Hold on. Why don't I give you
all right.
I got a cord. Come here, you.
Easy. There we go.
Okay. I don't have one. My whole point is, in the beginning, we'll get rid of that and start from a clean slate. Boom, we'll just have this UBI, and that's it. But eventually, why we have a welfare state is because people see inequality. So eventually, there'll still be inequality. There'll still be winners and losers. And eventually, one by one, these programs are going to come back. Now we have, the welfare state and UBI.
Yeah, and that's always a risk that you run with government. Anytime you've got the ability to use force, you've got the ability to reenact these programs. So it's like you talk about a flat tax. Well, I'm in favor of no tax, but I think a flat tax is better than no tax. It's better than the tax system we have now. Not better than no tax. But you see what I'm saying? So there's always the risk that if you institute a flat tax, that then there are going to be more taxes tacked on top of that. That's always a risk we run. That's going to be true no matter what. We have to just constantly fight against it. We've got to be vigilant against that type of action. The question is, what's going to create more opportunity, more liberty, more freedom for more people? And I think, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think if that was proposed, I would probably be in favor of it, just because I think in the totality it moves us closer towards liberty.
Okay, so I think I tend to agree with you more on it just drives me crazy. Because I think, look, I'm not even disagreeing with what you're saying, Jason. Like, yes, if we were to abolish everything that we have now and institute a universal basic income, would that be preferable to what we have now? Sure. I'm not going to argue with that. But once we're talking in abstractions like that, in hypotheticals, why don't we just stand for what we stand for, which is get rid of all of it and actually allow free markets to operate, which will be better for everybody.
But here's the thing, Dave. Is it better to advocate for that, or to say, hey, I'll take a half step in the right direction, rather than saying I will only take an end game rather than anything else?
I'm with you on that. I think it's fine to take it. Look, I applauded Trump for the tax cuts. Good job. Do I believe they should be way, way deeper and more permanent? Sure. But okay, I'm fine with taking a step in that direction. But if we're talking right now, in the state we have now, if for people who are advocating a universal basic income, is there actually any realistic shot that we're going to abolish all other welfare and get to this universal? Once you're going into that realm of what should be the case, I say let's just go for what we believe in, which is that, as you said, it's preferable to just abolish the tax system, have what we had in this country for a long time, which was no income tax. And honestly, the justification that's usually used for a universal basic income is something about machines replacing our jobs, something about innovation leading us to this point, which is, I think, the most ridiculous argument ever. The idea that, in 1895, when everyone's living on $1 a day adjusted for modern inflation, they didn't need a universal basic income. But now that we have all this fucking luxury, we really need to make sure no one slips behind. I don't disagree technically with anything you're saying. Sure. And I'm down to move in that direction, but no, it shouldn't be the position of libertarians. And this is the big, to me, where what I love about Rothbard, and as great as Milton Friedman was, why he gave it all away with the last 5%, was that he would end up advocating for withholding tax, advocating for a universal basic income, for a carbon tax. And just look around. What has the state taken up Milton Friedman on? Did they listen to any of his advice about rolling back the state? Did they listen to any of his advice about abolishing the minimum wage? No. But they're pushing the carbon tax. We have a withholding tax, and now they're pushing the universal basic income.
Right here in front.
So this is something I think that's really interesting. Hold on. Let's just do this quick. Hi. This is something I think is really interesting that comes up all the time. For me, especially because I'm a congressional candidate, we have this discussion about philosophical ideas, and then we get into the minutia of it, which I have to spend 6 to 8 hours of a day doing on policy-based issues, and you find all these exceptions in government. Do you guys have any idea about how we can better address this once we start to get into the brass tacks of it? Of course, theoretically, UBI, something like that, wow, if you knocked out 30% of the budget, 70% of it, that's amazing. But just like Donald Trump has done with DACA and everything else, like, oh, this is so great because of liberty, freedom. Oh, we'll put in this exception, we'll put in that exception. I'm not picking on immigration, I'm just saying that's an example of policy where it's always a backslide into something that it was originally not supposed to be. How do we really address that as libertarians?
I think the woman who hates Mexicans makes a good point.
No, Mike, you don't have your own podcast, Mike. No, you can't. You shut up. Come up here, Mike. You can answer it. You can, yeah.
Get up and answer because I have to take a pee.
Mike can do anything he wants to.
Also, we need more drinks. If anyone wants to volunteer, we'll make it up to you. I swear to God, with libertarian theory.
All right. So my personal belief is that libertarians are really missing the boat. They're missing the 200 trillion pound elephant in the room. So all the things that you guys are talking about up here, in an idealistic world, you could try them. But the fact that our entire system revolves around exponential debt growth, and I don't think people really comprehend what that means when money is debt, and the growth of money has to happen, which means that the growth of the state has to happen. I don't think even libertarians really grasp the math behind that concept. So all the
someone's a Bitcoin salesman.
Well. That's another conversation for another day. So I hear what you're saying, but all these problems that libertarians talk about, the principles behind the ideas, I agree with them, but there's no way to do it in the way the system currently works. That's the big elephant in the room, is that the system has to be torn down altogether, and money has to be... You have to re-educate people on what money is and how it works, because we don't own our money anymore, right?
Okay. But here's the problem I have with that. Mike's a good friend of mine, and he's my brother. But the issue I have with that is you're not going to... Change doesn't happen that way. We didn't get to where we are today through huge, chunky movements. We got to where we are today through small, little giveaways, right? So if we want to go back to the way it was before, we have to get small giveaways in our favor, right? So to me, it's always about just drawing a line in the sand and saying, well, like one of the things they will do if they want a tax increase is they'll say, we want a 20% increase on this or that, and then they argue about it and they settle on 5%, right? What they really wanted was the 5%. They started with the 20 to get the 5. And what I've always said is, okay, you want 20, I want a reduction in 20. we'll start from there, and we'll settle on a reduction of 2. Right? So you see, that's how you actually create that change. Is you've got to start using some of these same tactics in a way that benefits us and what we do. And unfortunately, I just don't think we don't make big strides towards liberty by taking big chunks. It's a game of inches. It's something we do every day. Back in the room. Do we lose?
This court's not long enough.
No, I get what you're saying.
And so, like, take the Ron Paul campaigns, for example. What Rand gave up, just like he didn't have the fire.
Nah, see, I disagree with you. Here's the thing. The question was, don't we give up something in terms of momentum by choosing the game of inches strategy versus the other? Here's why I disagree with you. Who's Rothbard to the world? Who is he? Now, to us, he's a genius. To us, he's a man to be respected and admired. Who is he to the rest of the world? Nobody. Nobody knows his name. Why? Because he didn't choose to move the ball forward. He chose a grandiose idea of what the world should look like, which I can appreciate and which we need. But when you're talking about people who are running for office, people who are trying to affect change and not simply talk about it from a philosophical perspective, then you need someone who is willing to drag out every single inch. It's a game that you play. Politics is a game.
You also need those bold voices that are shouting loudly as possible about what you really want and what you really stand for.
Goddamn right.
You know, there weren't people in abolition days calling for, well, we could use like a 2% reduction in slavery. I think that would be a vast improvement on the current system. No, we need to end fucking slavery because it's wrong and immoral. So you kind of need both. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I agree you need both.
You need the shouting and you need the people that are willing to get in there and, you know, maybe you eventually accept some kind of change that isn't exactly what you want.
I was in the bathroom. Somebody might have already said this. But I think people running for office should run on this step forward policy.
Hey.
If we're going to try to work our way in there, you need to run on a position of, okay, I'm going to find a common ground. But just like, look at the left. The left is fucking insane. Like, they're shit like, take the guns, universal everything, and they're moving the ball forward with that exceptionally insane out there policy. And now look at the people migrating to the left. So we do need to stick to our fucking guns, literally and figuratively. We need to stick to our guns. But I do agree that people running for office probably should try to find the middle ground because you're not going to get elected running on a pure libertarian.
Not only are you not going to
you're
not going to get elected, but you're not going to get anything done in Congress. You just won't. Like it's a game of give and take. And at the end of the day, like my position has always been, does this person view liberty as a primary political value? Okay, I understand there's going to be give and take. It's not an all or nothing thing when you get to Congress. So you have to have somebody who's willing to do that. And so it's not that I don't think we need voices like that and we need people who are willing to be extremists. I just think once you get into the political realm where you're actually trying to affect the change, if you don't have a mindset that says I'm willing to give a little bit to get what I want, you're never going to have any positive change in the world.
All right. It's not that I disagree with what Jason's saying. Like, I'm an ally of all that. But I just think you can say, what does Rothbard actually mean to the world? Okay, I think what he meant to the world was someone standing up and saying what the truth is and what it should be, and he's inspired more people here probably than anyone else who you could think of. What has Milton Friedman meant to the world? He's been a fucking cover for the neocons to push all their bullshit. That's what he's been. So I'm all for fighting the game of inches. I hope we win a whole bunch of inches. But if by that same logic, I'm going to stake out all, if someone's like, oh, I want a 20% increase and someone else wants a 20% reduction, I'm going to say this whole taxation thing should be abolished, stake out this position over here. And again, I think your analogy about slavery is correct. It's like, do you want to increase the amount of slaves by 100,000 or decrease them? I'm going to say slavery should be abolished because it's immoral, and hopefully we get there someday. But I don't know what else, And I do got to say, I think your example, particularly where we're at right now, like the real world situation, Rand Paul's grand idea was that he could be a little bit more reasonable than his father, and this way he could actually get some of the contributions from all these he went around begging for money.
I can't deny that you make valid points. I can't.
Right. So Ron Paul just said, I don't care who sends me money. I'm going to say what the truth is up here. And he got more money than Rand could have dreamed of. And then Rand went to all these guys. He went to all the went to all the big New York investors and went, hey, can I give you money? And they went, your last name's Paul. Get out of here. And then he went, well, I got this army of kids behind me. And then he looked behind him and went, oh, they're all gone. Because I compromised on this message. And the last thing I'll say is this, okay? Ron Paul, they made him a deal. This is a known thing. Ron Paul himself has confirmed this to me, okay? They made a deal with him where they said he could come get a major speaking role at the RNC convention in 2012 if he just toned down the anti-war stuff. And you know what Ron Paul said? He said, if I toned down the anti-war stuff, I wouldn't have this following behind me. And that's what he got that Rand Paul didn't get. So I just think it's like, well, I want to gain inches, but I just think in a lot of ways we're better off if we start at the end game and then say we're willing to take inches.
By the way, I will say this. Dave, I was a minarchist before Dave came on. We do a Libertarians and Living Rooms Drinking Liquor podcast. So Dave came on.
I convinced him drunk. It's the best way.
That's what this is.
He convinced
That's what's happening right now.
He turned me and Cap on that podcast.
Live on air.
But he did it with this. He did it. You did it. But with that exact thing, man, it's true. You're exactly on point.
And yet you're still against the taxation of theft thing, so he still has work to do.
That's because I'm working public relations, motherfucker. I know to communicate with people.
All right, you had your hand up forever, brother. What's your question? Yeah, you come up here. Come up
closer.
It'll make it easier for the show. This will probably make it on somebody's podcast.
Come here, you.
All right.
I'll air anything.
All right, so I think a lot of people can relate to this in this room, but a lot of my friends are super lefty socialists. And and when I try to talk to them about my ideas, I check them off. We're against the drug war. Yeah, they agree. We're against our current foreign policy. Agree. There's all these things we agree on, but then the sticking point is always social welfare, and they can't let go of it. They can't move past that. And I try to explain, well, we're in all this debt, and they agree that debt's a problem. But when they say that, I can see their eyes are glazed over because they don't want to comprehend what our debt means. How do you suggest getting through to people and explaining to them how important our debt problem is?
I don't think you're attacking it the right way, because the debt problem won't solve the issue. The way you attack it is by attacking the moral high ground. So they think that they have the moral high ground because they are in favor of helping the poor. You, in turn, are not. Therefore, they are morally superior to you. Whether this is a conscious thing or whether it's unconscious is really irrelevant. It's something that they believe, right? So you have to chop the legs out from under that. The way I do it is simply by saying, I understand. I agree with you. I want the poor. I want people to have a place to sleep. I want people to have, if they have emotional or physical problems, I want them to get what they need. I just morally, I can't do what you're suggesting. Now, when you attack it from a moral perspective and you say, I just can't do it morally, now the question becomes, well, what do you mean you can't do it morally? Well, here's the problem, is that in order for us to do what you're suggesting, you have to steal money from somebody. And we have a short conversation about how, look, if I'm redistributing wealth from one person to another and that person didn't voluntarily give that money away, then it's theft. And morally, I can't do that. I will give money to these organizations. I will try and convince other people to give money. But morally, I can't do what you're asking me to do. And once you do that, now they don't have the moral high ground anymore. And now they've got to look at it and say, typically the response you will get is one of two things. Either they will outright reject it and say, I don't think it's immoral, I think it's fine. Or they will say, I understand where you're coming from, I just don't agree. Either one of those answers is fine, because what you've done is defeated in their own mind the moral superiority that they have by holding the position. So this is a long, drawn-out process that you run through with people. But it's a conversation you have to have constantly with them. Because the more that they hear it, the more that they understand your perspective, the more they understand that, hey, it's not that you don't believe in charity. It's that what they're advocating for isn't charity. What they're advocating for is theft. And I can't morally sign on to that. I mean, I'm up for just about anything, but not fleecing someone else of their money if it's not voluntarily given. So by attacking it by saying, oh, we've got a huge debt problem, we can't afford it, people will say, well, we should cut the military, there's lots of other ways we can get the money. By attacking it morally, all of a sudden you've changed their perspective.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Jason just said, and I think, so this is not what will work, but just to make this point, just to reiterate it, because we get it here, I think, right? So the real problem with this debt issue is that, and nobody's going to be convinced by this, I just think it's important to say, is that we've had artificially held near zero interest rates for about a decade now, and this thing is about to uncork. It's going to be a real problem. So the official plan of the Fed is by, I believe, September next year to start shrinking its balance sheet. And
it's already doing it.
Right.
Okay. It's very small.
Very small.
Yeah.
So when they start doing this, the idea that they're gonna be able to keep interest rates as low as they are is basically insane. This whole thing. We have record high government spending while the Fed's shrinking its interest rates, and nobody's going to be buying these bonds at these levels. So what's going to happen real quick is we're going to start to learn that all this debt we've been piling on has been destroying the greatest country that ever existed. But again, this isn't going to help you in your argument, but it's just something to keep in mind. I agree with what Jason's saying. I think almost where I've come to with people like that is to just go okay, fine. You believe in this in terms of the social programs. Grant me that what I'm talking about is more important than that. Okay, you care about poor people. Are they poorer than Iraqis? Because we've killed hundreds of thousands of them. Are they poorer than people in Yemen who make the people in Iraq look rich? Because they're dying of cholera by the hundreds of thousands right now. So how about we all come together and stop that? Stop that. Because, by the way, if you care about the debt, we're spending close to $1 trillion a year to fucking murder all these people. So let's get together on stopping that, end the war on drugs, and if nothing else, convince people on the left wing to be advocates for what are the most important issues. And I don't know that it's not as good an answer as what Jason gave. I think he's right. You have to try to take the moral high ground back on that, but I've just struggled with that a lot. So I'm at least what I can convince them on is like Scott Horton used to say this, and I love this the most, where he's try to fight the left from the left. He goes, hey, in Yemen, they got transgender people too. You just almost got to take them up on their thing where you're okay, so you care about poor people, so let's stop destroying poor nations, right? How about that?
Okay, we've been at this about an hour, so other questions? Anything else? Go over here.
Topics, what do you think about secessionist movements, blockchain, Puerto Rico,
Michael, you can't pass your question to the guy next to you, all right?
The question was, how do you feel about secession? How do you feel about seasteading? I love that I love that idea. I actually came up with a television series that I've been sort of pitching about seasteading and all of the different things that would happen if you actually had different nations all seasteading, and how you would handle security and how you would handle rogue pirates and stuff like that.
Kevin Costner would gladly spend $300 million.
No, mine would be way better than Kevin Costner's. I'm just telling you. No, Waterworld. But I've been thinking through this. One of the things I love about the idea of the United States is that you have 50 independent states. So you can you can test stuff. If you want to try universal health care, okay, let's see how that works for you. Well, it just turns out that it works miserably well in every place it's tried, so why would we do it universally, right? So I love the idea of seasteading in terms of, hey, let's try something different, let's try something unique. And like I said, I don't know whether capitalism is the best form of cooperation we have. It's just the best one we've ever come up with. I love the idea that there might be something better out there. I'm very open-minded to that. Same thing with secession. If you want to break away, there's talks about Northern California breaking away from Southern California. I love that idea. Let's have as many different ideas, as many different ways of doing things as possible, and then let's pick what works the best in order to create more wealth and opportunity for more people.
Well, let me ask a legit question to you guys. Do you think if a state actually was fuck off, we're seceding, would the government allow that? Because I don't think it would.
No.
Okay, but you know what? Maybe not full secession, but there's been a lot that's been allowed so far. I mean, okay, so now I'm just going to blatantly plagiarize Michael's points, but...
He's talking about Michael Bolton from the 10th Amendment Center, by the way.
Everybody, yeah, Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton, everyone.
Hero.
My name was... Anyway.
Singer-songwriter. He's just got a lot going on.
Office Space. Fuck that ass split. No count ass clown.
Now this one's pretty cool. But look, I will say, so when California first started legalizing marijuana, and it was just for medicinal purposes, right? You sly bastards. So but Obama, in his first term, sent people in, man. He had targeted raids. He locked sick people in jail. He went after them. And eventually, the public opinion was just so against him that he had to stop. It's not because he didn't have the arms. It's not because he didn't have the guns. He just was like, man, I'm going to alienate my entire base. Now, the two examples that Michael used that I think are really good examples. What has been better, more effective? Forget how you feel about it. What has been more effective in terms of nullifying federal laws than marijuana legalization and sanctuary cities?
True.
Now, feel however you feel about this stuff. Are you telling me people in Chicago are being deported? Are you telling me people in LA are being deported? Are you telling me people using pot are getting locked up? Like, that does seem to me to be, at least practically speaking, something that has been winning, and maybe we can do that on some of the other important shit that we care about. But I think it's at least worth looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's great.
Michael, feel free to use that anytime you want to. It's
You want another question?
Follow up?
Hang on. Okay, go ahead.
Minority that doesn't want to secede, is that against the non...
So the question was, if the minority that does not want to secede.
Not as long as there is freedom of movement. Not as long as they can choose to move. Okay, as long as you're not restricting them. What's
yes.
that? Well,
so in a pure sense, yes, it's a violation of non-aggression.
Let me just say, because I was just talking about this in another podcast I was doing. So okay, they don't have the means to move, right? So we say, okay, these people, maybe they have to give up what they have. Look at America right now. Look at fucking the immigration issue, right? It's a big deal. A lot of immigrants coming in. These people give up everything. They come across fucking deserts. Half of them die getting into this country. Are you telling me you can't move? They seem to be moving pretty well. So I think you can move from one state to another one. If you really had to, you could do it.
See, now you're pushing me back into the Jason Stapleton direction here, right? Because truthfully, if you want to talk in some abstract
it's always
sense,
the direction we go.
It is, by the way.
What's like a
I'm jumping on the
in
Stapleton bus. But yes, in a pure sense, and I do agree with you, in a pure sense of morality, is that a violation of the non-aggression principle to those people who are... Yes, you're right, it is. But it's almost like we also have to deal with reality, right? So while I agree with you morally speaking, it's like if there's slavery, again, to use the analogy, but if there's slavery and we're talking about the Fugitive Slave Act, and you're like, yes, I'm opposing this so that at least if they get out, they can be free over here. Now, technically, is having slavery in that state still a violation of the non-aggression? Yes, of course. We shouldn't have any of it. I would like to have free markets across the board. But if we're talking in reality, I'd like to at least have someone have the ability to escape into the next state. So,
All right, couple more questions and we'll be done. Back here.
One thing I find very disarming is to bring up a political issue that's not one of the headline, like welfare, immigration, whatever, not the headline. So, like, for example, the over the U.S. supersonic speed limit for planes, like, people don't really think that should be, or like, people also don't think autonomous vehicles should be banned for people with disabilities, so that's a pretty disarming issue. Do you have any disarming issues that people don't pay attention to? Obviously, everybody's a libertarian opinion that you find disarming.
The question was hamster fucking, yes or no?
Yes. And the question was
this is not airing on Jason's feed.
This is not airing on my show.
Definitely not.
This is
Westwood One does not
the
approve.
question was are there disarming issues that people ignore?
It's a very long question. So
here's the thing. I always just to answer your question, there are always like these really off the wall issues that we can discuss. I have always tried to, again, I've said it before, I'm going to reiterate, enter the conversation they're already having in their own minds. If they're talking about immigration, then you should be talking about immigration. Don't talk about, supersonic speed limits over the United States. That's ridiculous because nobody gives a fuck about that. I mean, frankly, nobody fucking cares, man. So why would you discuss it?
You're in a room full of people who care about issues no one else cares about, and even I was like, I don't care about that.
Right.
You are the 1%.
Yes. So if you really want to affect change, if you really want to talk about and move people closer towards liberty, then talk about shit they're interested in, and not about shit that nobody fucking cares about.
I love this guy.
The next event in here is actually a debate about supersonic speeds above the U.S. Airways. The weird thing, but
I hate the thing I hate the most that libertarians do, and this is what Rand Paul started doing. Oh God, it drives me crazy when they start going. Do you know we spent $20 million on bear research and like getting into these like, and you're like, we spend $4 trillion a year.
Exactly.
Just attack that.
Yeah.
Like, why are we going off into? But we also wasted 13,000 on like DNA something. Blah.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's like it's
Dad wrote about that, like, same thing.
nobody cares.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Okay. Thank you for your question, by the way. I didn't mean to knock it.
Who's got a question?
One more question, right there.
Yeah, get on up here.
Come on. Oh, he wants
Come
the
on,
microphone.
Burly Bear, get up
yeah.
All right, so I feel like this is a pretty hard question, but I've had enough to drink. I'm going
Eat the microphone.
Sorry.
There you go.
All right. So I have heard one.
Eat it like this, man.
Intellectual consistency tonight. And Dave, I know you said that armed conflict's bad. I think we'll all agree with that. Armed conflict's bad. And I hate to be that guy, but I think it's a matter of we all agree that the Second Amendment was there for armed conflict. So it's really about drawing the line. When is enough? And so I think it's a matter of not a game of inches, but a game of statistics. So sometimes you'll have guys in the 2.5% that are, black and white. You have the Jason Stapleton guys who are a game of inches. Like maybe that's the 5%, but at some point we hit a critical mass and like shit gets real. All right.
Okay, well, let me just correct. I don't think armed conflict is bad. I would never make that statement.
Yeah.
Aggression is evil, and defending yourself is justified.
Yeah.
I'm all for if someone breaks into your home.
Oh, he's not giving it back.
Well, I'm just saying if someone.
Microphone hostage situation.
Well, to be fair, his position is that conflict isn't bad. So he is.
That's correct.
But no,
That's correct,
I'm
yeah.
all for.
He's got arms.
By the way, if someone breaks into your home to kill your family and you have an AR-15 and you take that motherfucker out, good for you. I will salute you when I see you. I don't think it's bad. However, if someone pulls a gun on you and you aren't armed and they go, give me your wallet, and you go, well, I have the moral right to resist this, I'll be like, yeah, probably just give them your wallet because you're going to lose this fight. So my point is, if you think the fucking, the 100 of us are going to take out the U.S. military right now, I'd say give them your wallet. Because we're losing that fight.
All right.
So that's my only point.
Okay, all right, let me finish my statement. First of all, I would disagree that a bunch of, I was in Afghanistan.
disagree that we can't take out the U.S. military?
A bunch of goat farmers in Afghanistan.
He knows jujitsu.
The U.S. Army. We had the ability to do it. The question is when is enough? And I know we're not even close to that right now, but I think it's important for your audience to understand is when is enough? Like, where do you draw the line? Like, as individuals, I want all you.
Well, look, dude,
that's an interesting. That's a great question.
Listen, dude, it's a good question. Let me address it this way. I spent 3 years in Afghanistan. Okay, so I know what you're talking about. I've been there. I lived there, and I can tell you that. From the crux of it, if you have from a military perspective, if you have no clear idea of what winning looks like, this is the issue that I have, is if you don't know what it looks like, if you can't see the game plan, it's like this is the line where we win. In normal combat, you have a surrender. So you have another state that says, I give up, and here are the conditions under which I will accept the surrender of you, who's failed, right? We don't have that. What we have is a guerrilla warfare. Right? A guerrilla war. It's not terrorism. People misunderstand what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not terrorism. It's guerrilla warfare. And when you understand it like that, you recognize there is no line. There's no finish ground. There's no finish line. It's not going to end. It will go on forever. There is no nation ever in history has ever been able to effectively put down a guerrilla insurgency that had the support or the fear of the people that it was in the nation it was in. So based on that, there's no way you can win. So the question is, how long do you continue to pretend like you could win, and how long do you continue to support or to give up American lives and coin in that pursuit? And my answer is no. You don't do it any more than you have to. You pull out now. You're done. Because if you don't know what winning looks like, and at the end of the day, no one in history has ever done it, then you need to be done. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I would just say also I agree with that, and just to your point about like when have we hit the line, and when have like I don't know, man. It's an interesting question. I mean, morally speaking, I think taxation is theft, and you have a right to defend yourself against that taxation. However, I don't know. I look around this fucking room, and I don't think we're quite at the desperate point that goat herders in Afghanistan are. So I'm not quite ready to like get, and that's it's not like that I'm bragging morally about that. It's just like, I don't know, man. We're all like still pretty comfortably. I would like to explore a way to try to comfortably get out of this situation. And no, it doesn't seem, by the way, if you want to fight that government, I know you can point to Afghanistan. That's a great example. Here's another example. The Branch Davidians. They fought the government too, Didn't work out too good for those guys. And no one really led an uprising after they got their children got incinerated alive. So probably my best logical judgment is that you try to fight the government like physically right now, you're going to end up being those guys, and it's just not going to work out.
Exactly,
and I'd rather talk to you nice people and go have another IPA after this, and then go do a comedy show. But that's my honest opinion.
Americans have too much to lose. That's period, end game. We have too much to lose. All of us here. We like to be like, yep, fuck the government. We all have too much to fucking lose. I'm not going out tonight. I'm not going to go fight a cop. I'm not going to go storm the White House. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go have a drink, and I'm going to fly to Japan.
I'm going out tonight for the record, so.
Hey, guys, thank you all so much for coming out. We appreciate you guys being here. Hey, guys, drink and be merry, all right? Drink and be making new friends.
By the way, thank you to Pablo and Liberty on the Rocks for setting this up. You guys are fucking awesome.
Thank you for Liberty on the Rocks.
And be involved in Liberty on the Rocks. You guys are awesome. They throw awesome
all
events.
the people who have come out here from far away. Holy shit, some of you motherfuckers came here from
The one dude flew across the fucking country
South
to come here. I'm not
Carolina.
kidding.
Phoenix there, South Carolina. People, goddamn, you.
We have this room till 8 o'clock. Drink and be merry. Then we'll go out all night.
See you guys. Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.